Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live session. So, guys, today we have an interesting topic, but at the same time, this topic is really somehow, for me, it sounds somehow. There've been this revelation. There've been this revelation that Tinubu's house, I mean, the United States is saying that Tinubu's house was used as a drop-off point for heroin, meaning that people that do distribute either come to drop, while those that the next group we have to pick up from there. So somehow this, honestly, this topic does not really sound well. It doesn't sound good at all. But we really want to look into this and let me know what Dr. Tel got to say about this. Dr. Tel, please, can you just deliberate on this topic? This topic is not even what's being discussed because it doesn't really sound good at all. It doesn't sound good. This kind of statement being referred to as sitting president. I don't think, for me, I don't know how you feel about this kind of topic, but just take us through this. Let me know what you've got to say.
Well, good day, viewers. I hope you're enjoying the kind of information we're passing from this particular platform. I saw this tweet too by Ruben Abati. Ruben Abati, as we all know, is one of the key henchmen in the Arise television, Arise News. Well, but let me put it in the proper context. As you have established, a drop-off is usually a place where someone comes to drop something and another person picks it up. So of course, you know that people who do heroin, they don't just collect it anyhow. They have distributors who sell it to the retailers, but they have also the wholesalers who come to drop it. So what it means is that a drop-off point is a place where the wholesaler comes to drop a particular product, and then the retailers comes to pick it from that place and go to the street. So all those people who go to the street and hand it over to the people who consume it, picks it from a certain point. And when they are done, they return the money to that place or to any other place they're asked to go and return the money. And the wholesaler, it's just like a system of what is called supply chain management. Supply chain management. In any business, there's always a supply chain management, from the production to the transportation to the middlemen and all this. So the drug business is something we know that is a well-organized business. It's well organized. The cocaine that is probably sold on the street of Lagos was either the heroin sold on the street of Lagos is probably manufactured in Pakistan, and from Pakistan it goes to US, and from or to Brazil, just like that. So it's understandable. But the question we need to ask is this a new discovery? The answer is not yes, and it is not no. But let me clarify. If you look at it, it says Tribunal, US Customs discovered Tinubu's house was used as drop-off point for heroin, Peter Obi, meaning that Ruben Abati is saying that Peter Obi said this. Peter Obi did not say this in a press conference. He did not say this in any news interview so that people will not go and begin to misquote him that he said this in Arise. That is why Ruben Abati tweeted it. No, Peter Obi did not say so. What happened is that the final address by Labour Party revealed a whole lot of things. What we have been hearing is for future, 460,000 for future. But if you read that address, it actually went into a deeper detail, explaining everything that happened. It is in that address that Peter Obi's lawyers, and as long as that written address is concerned, it is Peter Obi that said everything there. Their lawyers said it, his lawyers said it on his behalf. And he has more than 30 lawyers that worked for him that is working for him in this tribunal. And all of them, everything they said is his voice. That is why when you hear Peter Obi said, it is not him that said it literally. It is something he said through his lawyers in the final address. That final address, in order to establish that forfeiture of 460,000 is not something that the government, that the Supreme Court should play with. They went on to get the whole detail. The court papers in America, the investigation in America actually established that that house indeed was a drop-off point for heroin. And that is on the basis of that investigation that the judge, the court in Chicago, now decided to impound all the money, that 460,000 that was in his First Heritage Bank account. So I hope this thing is well understood. I've been able to establish three things. Number one, the petition, as we have been discussing, was detailed, very, very detailed. That's why I said yesterday that it will take external pressure or threats to even life or family members of the judges for them not to drop a big hammer during this particular, in their judgment, because the revelation in that 44 pages is so detailed that any lawyer at all that believes that this our country, Nigeria, should get a breath of fresh air will answer the prayer of Peter Obi. And in that place, it explained how the cocaine was brought, how it is dropped off, and things like that. I am happy. A lot of people asked me yesterday to send them that petition, and I know I've sent it for more than about 40 people that requested for it so that they can read for themselves. We sifted out the things that has to do with the argument of the other people, but we also didn't explain that there were some other hidden information that damaged APC and their candidate. And from that place, that Ruben Abati picked this one. So, which is more like Ruben Abati is trying to highlight certain information that is very, very important that people have not known. Labour Party is not just saying, oh, there was a forfeiture. They went on to explain the details, how it started, what led to the investigation, and what led to the court giving the judgment that warranted the forfeiture. In a bid to establish that that was a criminal forfeiture, which someone who committed that kind of offense, no matter how many years it has been, does not have any right whatsoever to be a president in Nigeria. So that is it.
So you said you've been able to establish three things when you initially spoke. Please just outline them for us, please.
The first one is that the written address by Labour Party was so detailed that it included this thing we saw here now. Many people didn't even know, but it is in it. Secondly is that Peter Obi did not say this as per being in a press conference or in a tweet, in a chat, or in a telephone conversation, so that people will not go and begin to say, oh, that he's scandalizing the sitting president, talking nonsense. He didn't say it that way. He said it through his lawyers in the written address, and his lawyers that made them push for it for him to be disqualified. So these are the three information that I need to establish for people to know.
So good, you have made that point very clear. So it's not as if Peter Obi came out to say that Tinubu's house was used as a drop-off point. Yes. It's just that it's part of the address that has been released by his counsels. So that's one of the things he said there. And that is where Ruben Abati took his title from. So I hope that is clear. But this is part of the findings of the Labour Party Council. So because they went deep, they went to uncover so many things because they needed to have proof, they needed to have strong backings to whatever claim they've made. And that's why they went ahead to really dig deep to bring out some of this information that people are getting to know just of recent. Because before now, we never knew that something like this happened. But you can see them adding it in their address. So it's now left for the councils to Tinubu and the APC to come out to tell the tribunal that this actually happened or it didn't happen. But honestly, from the look of things...
Sorry, they can't even. The door is closed.
Okay.
Peter Obi, they had the opportunity to come to the tribunal to disprove it, and they decided to bring Senator Bamidele, who could not help their case. This is the final written address. The only other place where, in fact, the door is closed for them because the evidence is abundant. They were given opportunity to dispute it during the hearing. They did not come. They were given opportunity, even in their written address, to dispute it. They could not dispute it. They were only saying that that it is more than 10 years and that it is there's nowhere where fine is mentioned. So the Labour Party now had to go deeper to say, what are you talking? Fine, is it not? When you park wrongly where you're living and the authorities give you ticket, is it not? We call it ticket, but you know it is a fine. We know it is a crime. We know that you have defaulted. So in order to establish that all these things, APC is playing it down, that it is not an issue to play down, that this was a very serious issue of money laundering, narcotics trafficking, to the extent that this building, this house, which the person put on register as his residential address, was the exchange where the wholesaler comes to drop and the retailers comes to pick. Nigerians didn't know this detail, but Labour Party is bringing it up. And they're not bringing it up as a news item. They are bringing it up as evidence in courts. And they submitted all of them, certified by the US courts. In fact, let me tell you something. I was reading just again the case of Oyetola versus Adeleke. And what the Supreme Court said there in terms of evidence, if someone brings evidence against you and you think that person is lying and you did not counter it, it will be approved. And then they said again in that place that when they're saying, you remember that the APC was saying, oh, the so-called crime was not even registered in Nigeria. No, the kind of issue that you register in Nigeria is a situation whereby maybe somebody ran away or there is a judgment that is passed against somebody in the US and the person's asset is in Nigeria. If the US government will come and possess the person's asset in Nigeria, they must register that particular case in Nigeria so that Nigerian authority will recognize it and then give the approval. Do you understand? But in this case, there was no need. The crime was committed in America. The asset they want to seize is in America. And the government seized the asset. And even the person in question did not challenge it in America. So it means that he accepted the judgment, he accepted the crime, he accepted the judgment, and he paid the penalty. So that is what Labour Party was able to establish in court. And then the Supreme Court has also gone ahead to say that if there is authority, like a stamp of any authority from anywhere in the world that establishes that a certain document is true, that the Supreme Court in Nigeria will honor it. And it is a court in America that stamped it. A court that said that this is our judgment. These things, Labour Party did an excellent, clean job in this particular issue of forfeiture. And that is that is why Reuben Abati can boldly even tweet this. Because Reuben Abati is a lawyer. And he's a big person in society. So he was a former spokesman for President Goodluck Jonathan. So go ahead. I can't hear you. It's like you're on mute.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for breaking it down for our viewers to understand very well. So we equally have something here to look at. And it says Peter Obi, Obi to tribunal. Though not convicted, Tinubu ineligible to president over 460K for future.
But it just ties into what we just finished discussing now. So I think Reuben Abati just presenting it in sequence, more like building a logic. This, maybe he first of all tweeted this, and after this he tweeted the other one to say this for future The reason is because, he's just linking it to build a case, which is an excellent thing. I'm even surprised that Ruben Abati is doing that, because he's one of those ones that are being too careful what they say. For him to be saying it with this boldness, it means that he himself knew that, look, this thing must be said. Because Ruben Abati has always been very, very careful. If you watch Arise News, he's the careful one. He doesn't want to say something because, forgive me, but I may say, it's like he too is positioning himself for a position, and he doesn't want to say anything that will make them say tomorrow, oh, but you said this against us. So for him to be saying this, maybe even he himself is beginning to feel like, wow, this thing is so big. I think I might need to begin to talk now, so that tomorrow they will not say, when I had the opportunity to talk, I didn't talk. Okay. So do we have any other thing? Okay, I can.
Sorry. I always
Yes.
try to mute to avoid background noise.
Okay.
So what do you have to say about this?
I think this is beautiful. Is it the same Ruben? That's good. I think I like that. Okay, you see the thing now. Just let's just look at the sequence I've just mentioned now. The first one, the second one, and this. I think Peter Obi's lawyers saying this by Obi, you notice all of them, he's quoting Obi, which means it is what his lawyer said. I agree with this completely. Let me tell you, first, the reason why I agree with it is based on what we have just finished saying. Having listened to me and the way I try to present this issue of the first one that talks about the heroine, it gives you reason for you to begin to say that indeed something strong is coming. But this one is specifically INEC. This one is INEC. You know why I think so? I took time again yesterday and even this morning to read the Supreme Court judgment between Oyetola and Adeleke. And I think that INEC so much helped Peter Obi's case. You know why? According to the Supreme Court, do you know Supreme Court used their mouth to say that IREV copies, uploading to the IREV is part and parcel of the election. And sticking strictly to what is written in the manual and regulation is part and parcel of the law. And then in that case of Oyetola versus Adeleke, if anyone likes it, I can send the person a copy. They printed the sections of the manual, the sections of the regulation, and the sections of the Electoral Act that stipulates uploading, first, uploading to the IREV, and secondly, that collation process must reconcile with what is on the IREV before it can be complete. And now it means that that result that is on the IREV, as we keep saying, is a very vital part of the collation process. And INEC went on to give Labour Party blank copies of blank IREV copies. And by law, IREC does not have any other result because the one they certified, they are trying to say Supreme Court defined certified true copy in their judgment as from a copy you got from original, meaning if you take your certificate and put it in a photocopying machine and print it out, photocopy it, and then take the stamp of your office to stamp it and sign it, that is what is called a certified true copy. You're trying to say, this one I am giving you in black and white is exactly a copy of the colored. But because I can't release the original to you, take this photocopy with my stamp as a representation of the original. So what INEC did, the moment INEC lifted their stamp and put it on a blank result, they have admitted that there is no other result except that one. And what it means now is that all the blank, oh my goodness, all the blank result that Supreme Court, that INEC stamped, they unconsciously, either knowingly or unknowingly, said that those results does not exist. because it means that whatever result they declare in that polling unit is manufactured from their head. And based on the Supreme Court ruling on Oyetola versus Adeleke, those results are cancelled. They are not existing. That is number one. Number two, the 18,000 polling unit, which is blood as we know, giving us a result of about 2.5 million, as we mentioned yesterday. In the eye of the law, that 2.5 million votes are no longer existing. And because that 2.5 million votes is greater than the difference between the INEC declared the result for APC and the INEC declared the result for Labour Party, there is no way a man can be declared a president when a contested number of votes, the number of contested votes is greater than the difference between the declared winner and the person who is contesting it. That is the law. So the question we need to ask ourselves, who is making this argument easy for Peter Obi now? Can't you see that it is INEC? INEC is like telling Peter Obi, we don't like you, but come, let us help you. We will give you documents that you will use to make your case established. And I still insist that people should go and read that document by themselves, because you can see Ruben is reading it and he's sifting information and he's tweeting it, and it is giving us time now to be able to explain it even in more detail. That is the kind of destructive punches that Labour Party puts in their petition to, I use the word again, obliterate all the argument of INEC themselves and APC. In fact, let me put it this way. I don't know, but I have this very strong hunch that if the Supreme Court wants to just look things straight, they may likely annul this election. Let me put it this way again. You know, I don't think the Supreme Court will like us to go and hold another election. But I don't think they can afford to allow things go the same way it is. You know, like we said in a video when we're encouraging people to come to this program, what is the worst case scenario? What is the probable thing we're expecting from the court? I sincerely think that it is very, very slim, no matter the amount of threats the judges will get. They will not just say all things is fine. The abuse, the neglect, the trampling on the people of Nigeria and the law that established the election that INEC got involved in, it's so overwhelming that even a judge who gives judgment to allow what INEC has done to remain the same will be ashamed of himself. I strongly believe so. And I can say it because the one written by INEC, the final address of INEC and the final address of APC and the final address of Labour Party, they are all there now. People can see it. And the law that guided this election, which is the Constitution, the Electoral Act, the regulation, and the manual, they're all available. And when you bring all of them and put them here, you can see that INEC they lost their senses. And they went on to abuse the whole process. And aside from they lost their senses and went on to abuse the process, the recent judgment of the Supreme Court, which was anchored on this Electoral Act 2022, that alone, in the case of Oyetola versus Adeleke, tells you what the Supreme Court believe, how they read the Electoral Act, because they have read it. They have made judgment based on it. And in that judgment, they have told you what they will respect, that they will respect the guidelines issued by INEC on print, which is on print, that they will respect the regulations issued by INEC, which is on print, that they will respect the electoral law and the Constitution. And Supreme Court quoted from these 4 documents to conclude their judgment. And the Supreme Court is going to quote from these 4 documents again to draw up their judgment. You notice I've been saying Supreme Court, Supreme Court. I have left appeal court to whatever appeal court says is no longer an issue to me. That is, if the appeal court tomorrow decide to say that Peter Obi didn't make a case, it's not an issue to me. Even if they give Peter Obi his prayer, it's still not an issue to me because did I say Supreme Court, appeal court? If the appeal court gives their judgment tomorrow and throw away Peter Obi's petition and approve everything INEC did, I don't care. If they give the reverse, answering Peter Obi's petition, his prayers, and declaring that the current president is no longer president, it still doesn't even bother me. What bothers me is the Supreme Court, because this thing is going to the Supreme Court and they are the people who have the final say. And that is why the judgment of the Supreme Court that relied on the Electoral Act 2022 is more important to me. How did they judge? What did they say about Section 47? What did they say about Section 60, Section 64? What did they say about IREV? What did they say about collation? And everything we have been saying on this platform was exactly what Supreme Court said, that they believe in, that they respect. And that is what Labour Party is saying that INEC did not do. And it's not as if the Supreme Court gave the judgment last year. It was just May this year that they gave that final judgment. May this year. When this particular case has actually got, you remember that this case has already gone to court when they gave their final judgment. So I think somebody's asking a question. My question is, when is the court date to pass judgment? Beautiful. Normally, it's clearer. The own world knew Obi won. It's clearer the whole world. I want to believe he said the whole world knew Obi won the election. So I think the court should pass the judgment immediately. My brother or whoever is Atlanta, I can't see. Please, the painful thing about our election litigation process is that it makes it annoying. Do you know that the election of Osun State governorship election happened July last year? It happened July last year, and the case went to court the same July, but it concluded in May this year, which means it took 10 full months for the case to conclude. Now, this particular level of the trial, the Presidential Election Petitions Court, by law, it has maximum of 6 months. Maximum of 6 months. Starting from the day that, INEC handed over the certificate of return, which means it started from March 1st to count. So if we count from March 1st, we're going to say March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So if this particular court decide to take their time, we are looking at maximum September is when it's going to drag before this particular appeal court will give their judgment. Then I think the Supreme Court has 60 days to give their own judgment from the day that the appeal is submitted. And there is also the number of days. So let's just say, starting from that September, you give 60 days, which is another 2 months. September, October, November. So maximum 1st December, this whole thing is completed. That's it. But that does not mean that the appeal court cannot fast track their case. Like you can see that INEC and APC, they have shortened the time because they were supposed to spend 4 days to present their case, and they only spend one day. So they shortened the time. And from the day they closed their case, that was the day that the court gave them to submit their final address. And so they shortened the time. You never can tell. Now, by in 5 days' time now, starting from day before yesterday, their final written address will be adopted. Now, the court will tell them, we will give you, I used to have the timetable. We could have published the timetable to show you. Maybe next time we'll publish it. But the court will now say, we will give you the date for the judgment. The court, if they are already ready, they can, after 5 days, say, our judgment will be in 10 days' time. But if not, they will announce it when they feel like. All right? So let me read this from, it says, no rerun if Mahmoud and Festus Okoye are still in that office. They will do the worst. They know the best to rig without a trace. They must go clean the house. My brother, Michael, I don't know. Let's first of all see that the court does their own, and then we know what happens with Mahmoud and Festus. We know that they are issue. But like I said, sometimes I believe that if the judiciary shows that they can bite, then even if you give a meat to a dog, that dog might say, my master will smack me if I eat this meat. Is it not true? Why I'm saying it is that if Mahmoud and Festus Okoye knows that the court will not tolerate nonsense, they will do the right thing. The only reason why impunity thrives in Nigeria is because people can do things and ask you to go to court, and they think that the court will accommodate them. If they start seeing that a court is a place where when they come, they will be slapped back to their stupidity, they won't do it. Mike Igini, the former commissioner in INEC, used to say it, that in a place like United Kingdom, the electoral process in the United Kingdom is made clean because the judiciary stood their ground. So you cannot allow politicians to clean the system that they will benefit from. It's not possible. There must be an arm of the government. Remember that the other two arms of the government are politicians that controls it. The executive is controlled by politicians. Then the legislature is controlled by the politician. So it's only the judiciary that can checkmate those two bodies and call them to order. So if our judiciary cannot sit up to do their work, forget it, our democracy is dead and is gone. So if they are ready to bite, then even if you bring APC chairman and ask him to conduct the election, he will do the right thing because he knows that if he messes up, the judiciary will act. Simple. I've gone to vote in this country. The day I went to do the last voting here, I was on a video phone with someone in Nigeria, and I told the person, I am going to put my call on video and watch me. As we were there, a policeman drove in with his van, parked, and I said to the person, this policeman is not here for security, he came to vote. He came out of his car, he entered the place, he voted. And me with video, I entered there, I put the video and I said to the people, please, can I have the ballot paper? They gave me the ballot paper. I went to my small cubicle, I voted, and I came, I dropped my ballot paper and I left. There was no commotion because the judiciary has made it so undesirable for you to come and meet them. If you meet them, you will get a slap you will regret. So I believe the judiciary is the only arm that can save this democracy because the other two arms are controlled by people who benefit from the corruption of election. This legislature and the executive, they are all politicians. If you allow them, they will always do something that will benefit them. He says, what is next? Now that LP and PDP have sent in their final report, that's exactly what we are talking here. It is waiting for the judgment. But as we, like what Ruben Abat is tweeting, we can see the content of the addresses that is giving us confidence. But let me also say here that what are the things we are to expect, like somebody said. And when I say what are the things that you are to expect, I am no longer talking about the appeal court level. I'm talking at the Supreme Court level. What are the probable judgments? And I have said it here. If I look at the judgment of the Supreme Court in the case of Oyetola versus Adeleke, this election may be cancelled on one notice, on one occasion. The reason is that the non-existing result of that about 2.5 million votes that have been announced as non-existing by Labour Party based on their research. In fact, let me quote it specifically. That 2.5 million votes that have been announced is greater than the difference between the person who is declared and the other person who is the second is called up. And that's what we're talking about. And then they also have about 8 million votes in total that is under contention, because 39,546 polling units are inaccessible. You can't access it. You can't access it. Even INEC themselves cannot access their own. So it means that that result is jammed. It's jammed in that place. And all these things is what will make INEC the judges. Just allow me, that particular 10,088 votes, I want to call it up so that we know exactly what we're talking here. Just give me a second. I think I have it here. Yes. 2,556,269 votes. INEC cannot account for it. INEC say, let me use our normal pidgin English. INEC say they don't lose. They don't have it. As in, they took their pen and stamped that polling units 18,088 and gave it to Labour Party as this is what we have. What is it you say you have? Nothing. They said we have nothing. And they stamped it. And the difference of the results that they have already used to declare votes that return the APC, they don't have it. Labour Party is trying to say, okay, you say that this person scored 8-point-something million votes. No problem. Show us the result. And they brought empty results. So if the Supreme Court is just to look on that alone, they will cancel the whole election. Like the Hausa man will say, Gabadaya, just cancel the whole thing, Gabadaya. Case finished. Because Peter Obi cannot even lay claim to those votes. Tinubu cannot lay claim to those votes. Atiku cannot lay claim to those votes. So Peter Obi cannot say, give me that vote because it belongs to me, because nobody knows who owns that vote. And because of that, Supreme Court will say, nobody owns it, but it is in existence. It is part of the total number of votes that you declared, but we don't know who owns it. It is possible that it is actually what made Peter Obi's votes to be 6-point-something vote. Or, so what the court will normally do in that kind of situation is that they cancel the whole thing. But the law says if you cancel such votes and the difference is not greater, the difference between the person declared winner and the next person is not greater, you'll allow it. But because it's greater, you can't allow it. That is it. So that is it. Secondly, they may decide to recollect the results, discounting that 2.5 million votes. If they discount that 2.5 million votes and recollect the result based on what is on ground, Labour Party will win, because it is based on that Labour Party was able to say, based on the result they can see. That is what Labour Party used to say, that they won 14 states plus FCT. All right? So, thirdly, the next thing is, even if they cancel it, will they disqualify the APC candidate? I don't know, but you can see the evidence that is on ground that it is so overwhelming. So to the person who asked the question, that's my thought. Then somebody, Barra says, nobody would even think about rigging election here in London. It is not like in anybody's train of thought. It sounds like fiction to any British citizen. Well, you have a point there, but like Mikey Guinea used to say, There was a time when London, when UK was like Nigeria, but the judiciary put a stop to it. Our own judiciary, by one stroke of their hammer, can put a stop to this thing. This year, they can put a stop to it starting from this year. If judiciary roars like a lion now and scatter these people, they will wake up and say, no, it's no longer the same. And I think God will use the person of Peter Obi. Look, I believe that God brought someone like Peter Obi to bring a change in Nigeria. You see what happened in his governorship journey in Anambra State. And he has been quiet until he came on stage. People were saying Peter Obi was the Labour Party, or people who are supporting him are 4 people tweeting in a room. Does it look like even people who won this election and who are already in power, they are still talking the man who is not in power? They are still discussing him every day. What's the name of the other one? The former Minister of Labour, Minister of State for Labour, Festus Keyamo.
Yeah.
Every day, Festus Keyamo will not let Peter Obi rest. He has left government. He's still talking about Peter Obi. Peter Obi is not even in power. The man is in Jos helping internally displaced people caused by the APC government. APC government made them homeless. Peter Obi is helping them. They won't stop talking about him. So, what can we say? So it used to be so in the United Kingdom until the judiciary stopped it. If our own judiciary can wake up and do something, Nigeria could be like United Kingdom. So, do we have any other thing, or we can go now? I think we've had a wonderful time this evening, isn't it?
Yes, we've really had a very nice time. Doctor, thank you very much for your contribution. Honestly, the judiciary is the one to decide the fate of the Nigerian people. Like Mr. Peter Obi has always lamented, about the body, I mean the government bodies in Nigeria, how weak they are. We have very weak institutions, and this is one of the things he said he's coming to fix. As in, we want our institutions to be very, very strong. Our judiciary should be strong. They shouldn't be, wavering. They should come out strong and decide the fate of the Nigerian people. Like you can see that our fate has been left in their hands. We are just praying that God will touch them for them to stick to the right thing, as in they should dispense justice and nothing less of it. We are just hoping that Nigeria will find it fit again to stand as the giant of Africa. I want to thank you all viewers for joining us. We don't want to keep this live session very long anymore. We want to be keeping it very short so that people can watch the video. Please do well to like this video. That's the only way you can support us. And if you've not subscribed, please subscribe to this channel, because we'll be bringing you more interesting topics that you want to hear around this Peter Obi and the election tribunal topic. So thank you very much for being a part of this live session. No doubt you got 1 or 2 information from Dr. Etel, and we are grateful you are a part of what we just had this evening. Dr. Etel, thank you for all your contributions. And I want to say at this point, good night to all of you, and bye.
Bye, thank you.